President Obama receives criticism as he tries to calm fears of terrorist attacks at home. I'm Craig Boswell at the White House. That's coming up.
Lots of sunshine currently outside, meaning temperatures are warming up quickly.
Now, from Louisiana's News Channel, this is 9 News at Noon.
Thanks for being with us, folks. I'm Gerron in for Lauren Westbrook. 74 years ago today at 11:55 local time, the first of a number of attacks on Pearl Harbor changed the course of history and marked this day as a date that will live in infamy. The day takes on extra significance here in Baton Rouge. Greg Merriweather is live at the USS Kidd to explain. Hey, Greg.
Hey, Gerron, we'll be a little bit quiet here as the ceremony has just started here aboard the USS Kidd. They started literally at 11:55 because Baton Rouge time. That's when the Japanese started their surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. Now, today's celebration is twofold, not only because the folks here are remembering at the USS Kidd, which is actually named for Isaac Campbell Kidd Sr. He was killed on the USS Arizona on this very day after that surprise attack in Pearl Harbor. This day also, though, has some significance in history in Baton Rouge. Years later, the Coast Guard ship White Alder actually went down in the Mississippi River, not too far from here, closer to Plaquemine, and like some of the men at Pearl Harbor, those men are still entombed in the ship, the Coast Guard ship, at the bottom of the Mississippi River. That's the way things look right now as folks give a kind of a, I guess I'll let you get a little bit brief feel of what's going on here, and we'll have plenty more coming up on our later newscast.
All right, Greg, thank you very much. A lot of history there. And of course, you can look for his reports on later newscast as well. A big discussion on health care is just wrapping up this afternoon at the Capitol. The Senate Finance Committee spent most of the morning talking about the state of health care in Louisiana and the possibility of expanding Medicaid. The state's Department of Health and Hospitals says it's facing a $500 million deficit. Officials attribute some of that to new Medicaid enrollees. DHH says 80,000 new people are on Medicaid and 20,000 more are expected to enroll in the program as it now stands. But Governor-elect John Bel Edwards doesn't want to keep Medicaid as we know it. You can hear from the committee on the governor-elect's ambitions to expand Medicaid under Obamacare tonight on 9 News at 5. Louisiana's next governor, John Bel Edwards, is expected to make a big announcement today about who will serve on his administration. Our partners at the Baton Rouge Business Report are reporting Edwards will announce Jay Darden as his Commissioner of Administration. Of course, Darden, once an opponent in the governor's race, crossed party lines to endorse Edwards in the runoff. That news conference is scheduled for 3:30 this afternoon. You can, of course, stay with WAFB for any developments in this story. The East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office is warning residents of scammers targeting people through phone calls. There are at least 2 reports of a person claiming to be a sheriff's deputy calling other people about outstanding warrants. That caller is reportedly asking folks to pay fees to avoid incarceration. Again, this is a scam, a big red flag to help you out. The Sheriff's Office says they don't initiate contact by telephone or email and urge you not to give out any of your personal information over the phone. Now, if you feel you've been a victim of this scam or any other scam, you can call the Sheriff's Office directly at 389-5000. Now let's get over to Jeff Morrow for our first alert forecast. It's looking pretty nice outside pretty much for the whole week, huh?
Yeah, we had a very nice weekend this past weekend, and most of the work we expected to be very nice indeed, Gerron. To take a look outside right now with the satellite and radar composite, as you can see, not much in the way going on. Not much cloud cover and certainly no rain in the picture. Here's a live look of the USS Kidd, and as you can see, the sunshine beaming down on the folks that are enjoying the festivities for Pearl Harbor Day. 68 degrees is our current temperature, so very mild air is in place. Winds out of the north at about 6 miles per hour. Our dew point very low right now at 46, so it's a very comfortable upper 60 feel. 60s for across much of the state, 68 for New Orleans as well as Lafayette, 65 in Alexandria, and across the state line in southwest Mississippi, Macomb is checking in at 65. You'll notice that we saw daytime highs in the 70s. We're going to cool things down once again for tomorrow morning, expecting morning lows in the low to mid 40s. So here's what's ahead as we take a look at your headlines. A couple of chilly morning starts ahead. More or less through Wednesday morning, you're probably going to need the coat. Warming trend, though, to end the week as we see those daytime highs and morning lows climbing above where we should be for this time of year. And then thunderstorms over the weekend are certainly a possibility. No one day will be a complete washout, but we'll try and fine-tune the forecast for you coming up in a few minutes. Gerron?
All right, Jeff, thank you very much. New at noon, the U.S. Department of Justice is launching a civil rights investigation of the Chicago Police Department. Attorney General Loretta Lynch says the investigation will look for patterns of unconstitutional policing practices and accountability throughout the police force. Her announcement comes 2 weeks after the city released video of a white Chicago cop shooting and killing a black teenager, sparking national outrage. The police chief there has already been fired, and there are calls for both the mayor and state's attorney to resign. The new investigation will be led by the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division. Well, Republicans say President Obama isn't doing enough to keep America safe. That criticism coming on the heels of the president using a primetime national speech to address terrorism in the U.S. following the tragic shootings in Southern California. Craig Boswell has more now from the White House.
Good evening.
President Obama tried to assure anxious Americans that the government will do everything it can to stop terrorist attacks from people inspired by ISIS.
The threat from terrorism is real, but we will overcome it. We will destroy ISIL and any other organization that tries to harm us.
But critics attacked the president, saying he didn't lay out any new strategies to protect America or defeat ISIS.
We're at war with Islamic radical terrorism, and that, as such, we need to have a strategy, and he needed to persuade people that our fears will subside when we are engaged actively in the destruction of ISIS.
Even as Republicans piled on the criticism, President Obama urged inclusion of American Muslim communities.
We cannot turn against one another by letting this fight be defined as a war between America and Islam.
ISIS has drawn in recruits by claiming America is fighting Islam, and a friend of Syed Farouk, the shooter in San Bernardino, told CBS this morning that Farouk didn't like living in America.
He told me him paying taxes was helping the United States support basically the war on Islam, the war on Muslims.
Still, a majority of Americans say the U.S. needs to do more to take on terrorists, with a new poll showing 68% say the U.S. military is not aggressive enough in the battle against ISIS. Craig Boswell, CBS News, the White House.
Meanwhile, the Department of Homeland Security is expected to unveil a new terror alert system soon. The original color-coded system, instituted in 2001, was replaced in 2011 by the National Threat Advisory System. Well, thousands of San Bernardino County employees are returning to work today, while investigators are still trying to figure out what motivated that husband and wife team to launch an attack at a holiday party last week. Now, federal investigators are examining items taken from the home of Syed Farouk's childhood friend, Enrique Marquez. The assault rifles used in the attacks have been traced to him, but authorities have not yet been able to interview him. Marquez reportedly checked into a mental health facility after the shooting. For the community, healing is still a long ways away.
We held each other and we protected each other through this horrific event, and we will continue to hold each other.
At a growing memorial near the shooting scene, people of all faiths have been leaving flowers and lighting candles in an effort to pay tribute to the victims. 14 people died and 21 were hurt in the worst terror attack on U.S. soil since 9/11. Well, in Paris, it was an emotional return for the rock band U2 last night. They performed for the first time since last month's terror attacks. CBS's Elizabeth Palmer has the story from London.
Bonsoir, Paris! And 17,000 fans roared back their welcome. It's just over 3 weeks since U2 canceled 2 concerts, scheduled to go ahead in Paris right after terrorists killed 130 people. 90 of them were music fans at the Bataclan Concert Hall listening to the California band Eagles of Death Metal. Bono and the members of U2 paid tribute to the victims at a memorial nearby and vowed that their own concerts would be rescheduled as soon as it was safe. It was, they told CNN ahead of last night's performance, a statement of resistance.
Paris is a very romantic city, and, you know, the essence of romance is defiance. And defiant joy, we think, is the mark of our band and of rock and roll. They're a death cult. We're a life cult.
Bono's also written a new song about the Paris attacks, which he will sing for the very first time on stage again in Paris tonight. Elizabeth Palmer, CBS News, London.
Still ahead on 9 News at noon, making driving safer for teenagers. We'll show you the new steps being taken right now by a number of manufacturers in hopes of saving lives. And a sunken treasure found in Colombia. We'll take you there for the fine 300 years in the making. Stay with us.